My name is Marine Neudecker, and I'm originally German, but I'm based in England. I lived in London for 14 years where I studied, went to art college, and now I'm based in Bristol. And I'd probably call myself a sculptor, but I work with film, video and installation. The piece we've got here in Kafka is called Heaven the Sky. And if there is a brief explanation of that, it would simply have to do with the image or the representation of the sky as an atmospheric thing or phenomenon, and then also that there is obviously human interest in calling it heaven or the sort of notion of a heaven. Physically, it's a glass tank filled with liquid, with water all the way to the top, so that it just kind of fills the image, which also has chemical solutions in the bottom, and the landscape is made, or the mountains are made of fiberglass, cast fiberglass, and they're sprayed with car paint. So it's physically just silicon glass, water, salt, and an acrylic medium for the clouds. I'm using the atmospheric sort of the skies in the images to set up chemical solutions that move over time, that change over time. So these are installations that change every day and that have sort of their own climate, if you want, inside them, that moves up essentially. These clouds in the bottom of these will move up the mountains. Most of the images I'm using are from romantic paintings or photographs that allude to be sort of using romantic or sublime images. And in a way I'm layering this sort of the represented image or represented landscape with kind of chemistry or physicality in the tanks. So I suppose I'm interested in perception in the first place and our experience of these things and how we read landscapes and how we position ourselves in relationship to physical things like this. So again, there's a sort of layering of an experience that you might have had, that you might have seen mountains like this, but then you sort of have a new experience to position yourself to these pieces. I like the way it distances the viewer, and it also obviously relates to the position that you see mountains in reality rather than the image of mountains. So it kind of complicates that level of representation and real experience a little bit more, because you sort of have to look up. You can't really see what's going on sort of on the base. It's like a failure to escape or something. I think there's an element of escapism in these, that people can sort of project themselves into these landscapes. But at the same time, you sort of always very conscious of the light and the silicon, everything is sort of really physical, and you're always thrown back into the gallery space. And then there's obviously this relationship between the two of them that implies that they're part of a much bigger thing, that they're just sort of cropped sections. I'm interested in how any image sort of crops reality, and that you only sort of always just have so much. So it kind of goes on there, which implies there could be another one in the room next door, and obviously that's how reality always is. You always see a crop. Or there's this sort of relationship or foreground, midground and background that I'm interested in, where that relates to time and our sort of notion of past, present and future. That in paintings it's often understood that the sort of the background is the future, the midground is the present, and the foreground will be the past. So you're sort of coming from somewhere. It's a sort of linear narrative thing, which I'm playing with this because you're continuously switching. So it kind of allows you to have a different reading of that timeline. These, not only do they change over time, over 2 or 3 weeks that we have them here, or even 2 or 3 months, depending on where I set them up. They are temporal, but that change is also then mingled with our own walking around them, and visually they do change a lot by doing that, and they sort of get animated by the water, because the water refracts them and enlarges them and changes the whole image quite a lot. So again, then you have that one piece going through that change as you're walking around it, and then it captures bits of the reflection of the other piece. So they kind of get all intermingled, and there are angles where you see hundreds of mountains, even though there's only 3.